Please do not attempt to listen to the following disclaimer while operating heavy equipment. The opinions expressed on this program are wholly yours and those of any sane, intelligent person. However, we must never be dogmatic. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong. My views do reflect those of the management because I'm the boss. This show is transmitted on 100% recycled electrons. No computers were harmed during the creation of this disclaimer.
Let's get real. I said let's get real. Life's much more than how it makes you feel. So let's get real. True love binds us closer than a brother. Real love always blends into each other. But it sure takes work. Don't waste another moment, honey. Let's get real.
In this fast-paced world in which we live, it can be easy to look over the small things, like letting your wife know you love her every day. Failure to do so may result in distance, conflict, and even divorce. Does your wife know you love her? How do you communicate your love to her, and how often? The great news is there are steps you can take to increase the level of happiness in your marriage. Stay tuned. We have the right prescription for your relationship pain. Now, here are your hosts, Maida LaSalle and Harold Wells.
Good afternoon and welcome to Let's Get Real. Harold will be with us in a few moments, but for now, it's just me. So tune into this great topic today, which is find 100 ways how to communicate love to your wife. And our guest today is Doug Flansers. He's an anesthesiologist, author, husband, and father of 12 children. He and his wife have a passion for encouraging families and strengthening marriages. To learn more about our guest, please visit our website, letsgetrealshow.org. Welcome, Doug.
Maida, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, we look forward to all the stuff you have to tell us and how to how husbands can love their wives. But before that, we'll get started with an audio clip where couples are being asked in an interview how they show love to their spouses.
Me, I'm a little more hands-on. I'm constantly hugging or kissing on her or whatever it may be. The text messages, they work, but I'm more physical.
What I do for her, I try to be supportive in all the endeavors that she take upon herself. She loves to teach, and she loves to work with kids, and I have conditioned myself to be supportive and help her in these things.
Non-verbally.
I'm mad you just said.
You said verbally, I said non-verbally.
I mean, it's true.
That's the answer. I can't think of a better one.
Very cute.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. And hi, Maida. How are you today?
Good. Good to see you, Harold.
Yeah, it's good to be here with you, Maida, as usual. First of all, Doug, I guess before we talk about this audio clip and all the various ways a husband can really communicate his love to his wife, what experiences and qualifications, do you have to discuss this kind of topic with us today?
Well, I think the thing that comes to mind first is not only have we survived 26 years of marriage, which in and of itself is a feat these days, but I feel like we've really thrived. We love each other more today than when we started, which we were so passionate about each other then. It's hard to even imagine that's true, but it is. And this has happened over a period of time despite lots of adversity in our lives on many levels. 3 of our children have diabetes, which is always a challenge to parents with sick children. I've been in the Army and been activated twice, which there's about a 50% divorce rate every time someone gets activated, which is a sad thing for our soldiers, obviously. And of course, we made all the classic blunders. We got married early, had kids right away. I was a grandparent by 40,
Wow.
Wow.
all those things, and
Yeah.
yet God has blessed us, and we've just had such a wonderful marriage that, we feel a need almost to share it with the younger generation, and even people our own age, that are trying to catch up a little bit.
Wow. As someone as myself, I've served in the military. I wasn't married at that time, but I do know the special demands of the military and the stresses that can be upon married couples. So that's really, really a big achievement right there, overcoming those barriers.
Right. And having children that are ill, that's also a stressor for a marriage.
Yeah, sure is, Mida.
So why is it so important that husbands understand how to communicate love to their wives?
Well, I think in marriage, and certainly for the woman's side of the equation, and for both sides really, but for women particularly, love is such a key ingredient. I mean, it's kind of the base of everything else, what everything is built off of. In our blogs and our books, we talk about men loving their wives, and a lot of responses we'll get is like, why don't you talk about respect more, or something like that, And what I found as a physician and working in the medical community, I'm surrounded by high-powered women who are super, super smart, super, super talented and devoted, and they are just, basically awash in respect. They get respect from their colleagues. They get, respect, from every side. But it's sort of a different thing than that passionate love where a man cares for a woman with all of his heart, with all that he has, and just pours himself into her. It's just sort of a different thing, and it's a necessary thing. It's a key thing.
So wives definitely need to hear it from their husband, don't they?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's a gift that husbands can give to their wives. It's not something that's earned. So many things you can go out, and if you work hard enough and if you do the right things, you're going to get rewarded. But love is something that is given. It's something that you can't earn in the traditional way. And so for a man to give that love to his wife is extra special, I guess you'd say.
Sure is.
Doug, there's been articles that talk about when acts of kindness and caregiving disappear, that it's a kind of an indication that the relationship needs help. And they talk about what they call compassionate love. How does showing compassionate love to one's wife increase one's own happiness?
Well, I think anytime you put the other person first, anytime you put their needs ahead of your own, it always reflects back to you. Those things don't just go out and disappear into a void. As you love on the other person unconditionally, as you put their needs ahead of your own, what happens is they respond to that in kind. I mean, it's just almost a reflex or an instinct that when people are loving and compassionate towards you, you're going to be loving and compassionate in return. Mm-hmm. It doesn't always play out that way. It's not one-to-one. It's not a, one of those situations where you get, exactly back.
Right.
But at the same time, it tends to be a cycle that once you get it started in the right direction, it does reflect back to you.
Yes.
Yeah, showing a little compassion shouldn't be so hard, but it is for many husbands, right? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that men tend to be, very task-oriented. Relationship-type things are just maybe not natural to them, and so it presents a challenge. They're used to, going out and conquering and doing this, that, and the other, and the idea of, being focused on a relationship is a little bit challenging for them.
But they should know that they're going to get back a lot more if they showed some compassion, don't they?
Exactly.
Doug, though, part of it seems to me that we as men sometimes are kind of stereotyped. And by that I mean stereotyped in how we should feel and what we should show to someone else in our feelings. Does that come into play, you think, for a lot of men today in our society?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there are roles that are assigned to us to great degree by society, by our upbringing, and so forth. And typically boys are taught not to show emotion, to be stoic, and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And so that does make it challenging. You're being stoic in sports. You're being poker faced in business.
Right.
You name it. And then now you're in this relationship of a marriage, and you're being asked to do all the things you're otherwise told not to do in society.
Yeah, exactly. You're almost kind of like having to flip a switch and in some ways be somebody you're not used to being.
Exactly.
Now, the audio clip we heard at the beginning of this segment features 3 husbands from different generations who shared some of the nice things they did for their wives to maintain their happy marriages. Does this really work for everybody, or must there be some certain conditions present in order for this to work?
Well, basically, it's never wrong to start. I mean, no matter who you are, no matter what age of life you're in, no matter what condition your marriage is in, I mean, it's never wrong to show love. And, if you can get started on it, sometimes the results are not immediate. Sometimes, like you said, the conditions are not, favorable.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're consistent about it, if you're doing the right thing consistently, eventually I think it will gain traction, and you will begin to see some results. It's kind of like a big ship turning. It takes a while, but it does eventually turn.
Yeah.
I would think it also takes humility if they've been in under stress for a while in their marriage.
Yes, absolutely. To come to the table and just say, listen, I've been messing up the last 10 years. I've done a poor job of this. Can we start fresh and let me try and do this better? By God's grace. Yeah, that requires a lot of humility, and that's hard for a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
Right.
It's not natural.
Doug, Maida and I have done over years. We've done a lot of couple workshops and dealing with relationships, and we know that there's certain things that couples can do that to really increase the happiness and the satisfaction in their marriage and in the relationship. And why is it so difficult, do you think, for couples to learn to show this compassionate love to their spouse? I mean, it's not like this is rocket science. This is something that should really come natural, but it really doesn't come natural. If you know what I mean.
It doesn't come natural. I think what it shakes down to, if you have to put it into one word, it's the word selfishness. And I think that as humans, we are just intrinsically selfish. And we're selfish with our spouses, with our children, with our coworkers, with our friends, whoever it is. It's a lot of times it's all about me.
Right.
And when you're in a marriage relationship, for it to really be successful, the whole concept is to put the other person's needs first. I mean, it's really to be self-sacrificial and to put them first. And that is a simple concept, but it's really, really hard to do. It's like you're fighting upstream against everything that
Yeah.
Right. I don't think many people want to sacrifice these days. Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, what is it? Even the Pepsi commercial says we're the me generation. It's all about me.
But yes, it's so true. In fact, we we on our blog we have a lot of positive comments and a lot of negative comments, and basically uniformly the negative comments revolve around the idea of what about me? Why I want my spouse to serve me. Why do I have to serve them? They're there for me, not vice versa. And that's the wrong view of things. You really have to have a servant's heart and to be successful in a marriage.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, that is huge.
Now, if a marriage is already in trouble, what do you suggest to that couple? I mean, they do to start communicating lovingly, especially for husbands to communicate lovingly to the wife if their relationship is in trouble, their marriage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's all a continuum. I guess we're all at in various degrees of trouble, or some are in worse situations than others. But I think that even if couples are in trouble in a broad sense, or even if so far as they've separated, maybe even divorced, I really believe in reconciliation. I believe God is a God of second chances, and I think we as Christians, also have a responsibility to be those sort of people that are willing to reconcile and put right those things that were wrong. So I think a foundation of any kind of reconciliation is going to be forgiveness towards the other person, and then also humility.
Well, we have to take a break right now, Doug, but when we return, we'll discuss what's currently getting in the way of couples showing love to one another.
Compliment what she does, send her roses just because. If it's violin she loves, let them play. Dedicate her favorite song and hold her closer all night long. Love her today, find 100 ways.
You want to make a difference in your community, and we can help. Since 1994, George Bolden Consulting has been serving the nonprofit community with a full array of services. Our mission is to maximize your nonprofit's impact through profitability and change. We're committed to meeting your needs: grants, logos, tax exemption, and more. Our expertise will help you make a world of difference. Let us provide you service for a change. Call toll-free 877-919-0496 or consultgeorgenow.com today. You are the best at what you do. That's why you shouldn't have to worry about back office activities like entering sales data or reconciling your bank statement. Let Manning & Associates take the hassle out of running your business so you can get back to work doing what you do best. They offer affordable monthly service plans for the best in accounting, bookkeeping, and customer service. Call Manning & Associates at 727-290-5835. That's 727-290-5835. Manning & Associates. Good for your business.
And welcome back. And I'm here with Maida LaSalle and Doug Flanders as we're talking about how to communicate your love to your wife. And before we've been talking about the communication with Doug. If you really would like to join this conversation, or if you have something you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear from you. You can give us a call at 727-441-3000. That's 727-441-3000, or our toll-free number is 866-826-1340. That's 866-826-1340. Or you can tweet us at Get Real Show. We'd love to hear from you. In a few moments, we'll continue our discussion, but before that, let's listen to another audio tape from Jimmy Evans, founder of an organization called Marriage Today, speaking about what is hindering couples from having successful marriages.
Here's what men need to understand. Women need planning. They need effort. In fact, that's what a woman considers to be romantic. You planned it and you went to a lot of trouble. It's just, I don't want to go jump in your pickup and go driving. I've done that for a month, and I want something better than that. And she's interested in the real you. At some time in an activity with her that she's going to have fun doing, there has to be some face-to-face.
I definitely agree with him. We women need planning.
I thought the truck ride was pretty good, Mida.
Yeah, no, not so much. This clip from Jimmy Evans may be pretty challenging for some guys, I think. In our busy, hurry up, I need it done yesterday society, how can a husband have time to plan romance, Doug?
Well, I think it's a matter of setting priorities. Basically, if somebody, you're at work and your boss says, I need this done or else, you're going to hustle up and get it done.
Right.
And I think that there's always the assumption in the back of men's minds that, my wife will always be there, she'll be understanding, it'll be okay, and there's a lot of assumptions there. But men need to look at their relationship as something that requires effort, it requires input, it requires planning, and it's a matter of pushing it to the front burner and recognizing that it does take work. I have a friend who always says, I like to take a little bit of my retirement every day. And I think when our relationships, instead of I'm going to work real hard and get all these things accomplished and then one day we'll retire and enjoy each other, it needs to be, hey, let's enjoy each other a little bit each day. Let's make a little effort each day, and then that adds up over time.
I hope all the husbands are hearing that.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I just think that a lot of times, and you said something earlier that sparked this thought, we take each other for granted.
Yes.
And that's not good.
Yes. When I was in high school, I had an English teacher. She said that the funny thing is that people treat strangers with so much kindness and so much compassion, and yet the people closest to them, the family members, the friends that are close, get sometimes pushed, aside and treated shabbily, and it really should be the reverse. Yeah. And it really, for whatever reason, it is a part of human nature to take for granted those closest to us. And it's always good to be reminded to, romance your wife like you were going on your first date. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe not every day for that, cause but still, have that mindset.
To have those butterflies again, to keep them. Yeah. One husband wrote, saying I love you is just words. I like to do things that require effort, planning, and a little bit of sacrifice. It shows that you really are putting the other person first. I guess the question is this really realistic? And if so, what are the benefits?
I think it is. Obviously, you can't do that every day. The big things are going to take time. They're going to take some effort, some planning, as we mentioned before. But I think that when you do those things, the benefits or the dividends carry forward longer. If there's something that you've really put some effort into, I think that the wives tend to remember it. Yeah. Sort of goes into that little credit bank, that's there.
I mean, it kind of goes under the old saying that I'm sure you've heard, it's better to give than receive,
Absolutely.
And we all understand that there are all kinds of ways of saying I love you. Men are famous for saying, I get up and go to work every day and earn the money to take care of my family. That's how I show my love. But is this really enough? Is this what the wife really needs or wants?
Well, I think it's a starting point. I mean, for sure, that's an important piece of the pie, but it's not all the pie. I think some people say, well, I do this, that's it. And I don't think that you can discount that or throw it out, but I don't think you can stop there. I think you have to recognize that people are more than just a roof over their heads, food in their belly, the basic ingredients that of life. There's a lot more. And I think women desire love, as we talked about earlier. They desire romance. I mean, there's just so many more things than just, hey, I go to work,
Right.
Yeah.
And we definitely need to hear I love you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things is that, you know, all these other things are great, but hearing it, at least periodically, you know,
Right.
is so important.
Yeah, you know, Doug, I'm just kind of wondering, you know, from a man's perspective, is it possible for a man to do something that he thinks is really, really nice for his wife, and the wife not understand it, or just doesn't interpret that way? I mean, is it just simply miscommunication, or do men and women speak different languages?
I've read two books that one's called The Male Brain,
Yeah.
and one's called The Female Brain. They're both by Luann Brizendine, who's a physician. And it's so funny because, number one, the male brain is about half the length of the female brain. The book. So, you know,
I guess that's why they need us.
Careful, Doug. Careful, Doug. Save us now.
Yeah, that was pretty telling before you even read a word. This one's a little thicker, but at any rate, she goes into actually the biochemistry and the anatomy of the brain, and basically from in utero. I mean, before a child's even born, our brains develop in different ways, and we have different styles of communication, different needs, and so it's real easy to get cross communication. And you know, you hear all these, you know, what is it? Men are from Mars and women from Venus, or whatever. You know, I mean, there is a little bit of that going on for sure.
Now, we know author Gary Chapman talks about 5 love languages. What are they, and how do they make a difference in communicating love to your spouse?
Well, Gary's book is just wonderful. I think that truth is going to be universal, and he wrote that book, you know, a while back, but it's proven to be so true on so many levels, and the 5 things that he talks about as different love languages are the giving of gifts, acts of service, quality time together, words of affirmation, and then finally physical touch. And, you know, I think that clearly all of us benefit from all of those different things. I mean, you know, it's not like I want one of these and none of the others, but but at the same time, it's also clear that each of us has a language that speaks most loudly to us, would be the way I would think of it. Right. And so, you know, kind of figuring out what speaks loudest to your spouse and, you know, really speaking in that language is going to do worlds for your relationship.
I definitely agree with that. We have a caller on the line.
Okay.
Hello? Yes, I'm free, and I do have a call. Those wives who need their husbands to express their love more for them, how do they communicate this to them in a way that will encourage the husbands to do it? You know, and not just think that they're nagging.
Yeah,
right,
great
that's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the key is sitting down and talking, and you know that's sometimes the hardest thing to do. But sitting down and communicating is a starting point for pretty much everything. And you know, that doesn't mean that once you've communicated that'll make it easy. If there's some habits there of thought or action, they may be hard to break. And so, you know, communicating is a starting point, but there may be, you know, other things that need to happen after the communication to help reinforce that idea.
And I guess it also expressing how you feel about what you're not getting is also important.
You know, I'm sorry, but also, too, I just kind of like to add, when that talk occurs, you know, it needs to be in an environment in which there's no distractions, you know. The TV needs to be off. The cell phones need to be turned off. It needs to be a truly moment of quality time between a wife and her husband.
And I would add to that a loving and safe environment, not a hostile one.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You know, as we go back, and we were talking about Gary Chapman and the 5 love languages, and for those in our listening audience who may not be familiar with Gary Chapman, he does say basically these are 5 love languages that we feel when people express their love to us in this style, we feel loved. And I guess one of the things that's so interesting in this book is he gives questions at the very end that you can go back and kind of answer. And based upon your answer, you can find out what your love language is as well as what your spouse's love language is. Doug, you know, how important do you think that is, really being able to communicate in knowing and communicating to your spouse in their love language and vice versa?
I think it's important. I think that, you know, obviously if, you know, you're giving little gifts to your wife continuously, and that's not something that she's really interested in. I'll tell you a little story about when we were first married. I went out and bought my wife, I hadn't heard the rule, don't buy your wife clothes, but at any rate, I went out and bought my wife a beautiful dress and brought it home, and I was so excited, and I thought I'd done well. And I got home, and you know, she just about came out of her skin that I, you know,
she didn't like the dress, Doug?
I don't. It was a combination of maybe didn't like the dress and didn't like that I'd spent so much money on it.
Ah.
The net result was I had to take it back and buy her a bandsaw, which she then used the bandsaw to create wooden crafts and things for the next 10, 15 years. So,
oh, wow.
At any rate, she...
that's different.
It's kind of like, you can buy me a gift, but ask me first what I want. You know?
Right. And I think generally what happens is we treat our spouse, well, we show them the type of love language that we like to receive.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think we go wrong. But right now we have to go on a break.
All right.
And when we return, we'll discuss practical ways husbands can demonstrate love to their wives.
Terrific.
I sing another love song. Girl, you know my love for you is true. Girl, you know my love for you has grown throughout the years. You treat me good like a woman should. You show me that you care. Girl, the Father has made us one, so nothing can divide us. You keep me strong, do me no wrong. You wipe away my fears. So when a man loves a woman, he treats her good. When a man loves a woman, he treats her right. When a man loves a woman like the way that he should, she should never be unkind. When a man loves a woman, he treats her good. A man loves a woman, he treats her right. When a man loves a woman like the way that he should.
You are the best at what you do. That's why you shouldn't have to worry about back office activities like entering sales data or reconciling your bank statement. Let Manning & Associates take the hassle out of running your business so you can get back to work doing what you do best. They offer affordable monthly service plans for the best in accounting, bookkeeping, and customer service. Call Manning & Associates at 727-290-5835. That's 727-290-5835. Manning & Associates. Good for your business. Need to update your do or tighten your fade? Modest Cuts is a full-service hair salon offering barber and beauty services for men, women, and children. This clean, family-oriented salon is located at 2421 Central Avenue in the heart of St. Petersburg's Grand Central District. Modest Cuts Salon is open Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 6, and Saturdays, 7:30 to 3:30. Appointments are encouraged. Walk-ins are welcomed. Call Marla at 727-768-3938. That's 727-768-3938. Modest Cuts Salon. Attention you deserve.
This show is a breath of fresh air, except we're prohibited by law. Views in well-ventilated areas. Content under pressure. Slippery when wet. Information must be shared. Penalty for private use. Return unused portion. Drop in any mailbox. postage paid by sender. Removal of the tag is strictly forbidden. Your canceled check is your receipt. This disclaimer will self-destruct on contact.
Welcome back to Let's Get Real. We've been talking about how to communicate love to your wife with our guest, Doug Flanders. If you'd like to join our conversation and you have a question or a comment, please call us at 727-441-3000, again 727-441-3000, or our toll-free at 866-826-1340. Again, 866-826-1340. You can also tweet us at Get Real Show. In a few moments, we'll continue our discussion. But before that, let's listen to another audio clip where the husband of the House of Rose blogger, Mandy, is sharing a creative way of demonstrating his love for her.
So another cute little idea that he did for me involves these little Post-it notes. I like to call it the Post-it explosion. And I always wake up before he wakes up. And so one morning I was walking to the bathroom and I was going to take a shower and I look at the mirror and it is covered in Post-it notes, which is why I call it the Post-it explosion. But they were all individual little sayings about something that he loved about me. So
everything from the smile to her laugh to personality traits. Also had to include some certain physical features that I find very appealing and just everything. And I think I had 30 or 40 different Post-its. If you can't think of 40 or 50 things that you love about your spouse, then we need to talk offline. But it was very easy, very fun. You know, just smothered the mirror with all these different Post-its and just had a lot of fun with it.
A creative husband.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to share it in many different ways. Doug, you know, at weddings, you know, we sometimes, and not just sometimes, really most of the time, we hear passages of Scripture from Paul's letter to the Ephesians, in which he writes, "Husbands, love your wife like Christ loved the church and gave his life for her." What do you think that means today in practical terms?
Well, obviously, they're referencing the whole concept of sacrificial love. And, you know, so oftentimes we say, oh, I would die for my wife. And yet we're not willing to live for, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think the key is learning to live sacrificially on a daily basis, and it's usually small things. You know, it's you know, we're not having to rush into a burning building every day, but some of the things we do have to do is you know, go to family reunions with in-laws we don't like, or you know, maybe pass up a promotion at work so we can spend more time at home. I know one of the things my oldest son does. He's got 4 little boys and a 5th on the way. But whenever he's not working or in school, he will usually about once, sometimes twice a week. He'll take the little boys for a few hours and just give his wife some time to have to herself or to go spend time with other young mothers and just kind of recharge her batteries. And, you know, with his busy life, that's a sacrifice that he's making so that she can have, you know, some joy and some peace and some sanity, I guess, with the situation she's in with so many young ones.
Yeah, you know, Doug, one of the things you talked about is demands on our time. You know, as you become more successful in your career, obviously the demands on your time changes, and by that I mean people are wanting more and more and more of your time. You know, how do you make that balance? You know, what can we do as men to ensure that we keep our career side on a positive note without, you know, sacrificing our personal side?
Yeah, that's an ongoing challenge. I you know.
Yeah, it is.
For all of us, it's not like a one-time I'm going to do this and that solves it. It's really an ongoing thing. What we do is about once every 6 months, we sit down sometime in the summer and usually around Christmas time or the first of the year, and we say, okay, what are the things that we're doing, and what are the things that are priority, you know?
Right.
And so we end up a lot of times having to jettison things, and it's usually rarely a choice between good and bad. It's usually a choice between good and better.
Mm.
And so basically you realize you can't do everything, so you just have to try and do the best thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do have to make sacrifices in the career frontier. Like I could do this, but the sacrifice would be too great.
I think one of the things that Maida and I, when we've done workshops together in the past, especially with couple workshops, we always reinforce and really encourage the concept of date night. And date night not being a time to talk about what are we going to do about this problem or what are we going to do about this bill. It's time that the couple really refocuses on one another.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a key element to success, and whether you call it date night or something else, the key element is that you have time alone, and we get so busy with work and kids and a variety of things. It's easy to forget about each other. For us, what we have done is we found these, I think, $2 or $3 latches that you can get at Home Depot, and we've installed them on our bedroom door in every home we've ever owned. That's the first thing we do is go with these latches. But basically, at about 8 o'clock each night, we wrap it up with the family, story time, Bible time, whatever, and then send little ones to bed and big ones to work on their projects. And we basically have some time alone. Typically soaking in the tub and talking about life and the day and, just whatever is on our mind. And just that little bit, every day kind of helps us to maintain a balance. And then we are able to do the date nights periodically and then more extensive things, on a more rare basis. But I think the key for us has been just a little bit every day.
And we know you wrote an article last year giving some practical suggestions on how to have a successful marriage since you've been married 26 years now. What are some of those other practical suggestions?
Well, I've got a bunch of them, but I think there's a few key ones that I would, maybe highlight. The first one, of course, was listen. And I think that communicating with your wife, listening to her, sounds really simple, but with so many distractions, in modern life, it's easy to not listen. And as a physician, I realize the importance of listening. A person comes in and they're sick, and they want to tell you about it. If I'm staring at the television set, going, I'm going to have a hard time diagnosing and treating their illness, and I think that's the key is to get rid of the distractions, have a quiet environment, have a safe environment, as you mentioned to our caller earlier, and really listen to what your wife has to say. And I think a lot of times people are surprised at what they hear. Right. The other side of that is communicating. Don't make her guess what you're thinking or feeling. Guys tend to clam up and, not say what's on their mind. And I think it's important that communication be a two-way street.
Yeah. That's the way I've always heard communication defined. It's a two-way street. I think most of us sometimes are good at talking, but the listening, maybe sometimes we're not as good. And in talking about that, in the communication process, why do you think listening is so important?
Well, it's just the key to so much of life. The joke is always that God gave us two ears and one mouth, and it seems like everyone wants to have their say, but it's so much more important and yet so much harder to do to listen. I know with couples that we've counseled the over and over, when you talk to them, they always want to point out their spouse's flaws, but they never want to talk about their own. Right. And I think it's kind of that way with listening and talking. We're always quick to we want to put our insights, but we don't want to hear the other person's insights. But it's important that we do.
Yeah, and we're often in conversations where there are often or a lot of times of interruptions. You don't even get a chance to get your complete thought out, and someone's interrupting you.
So what makes a guy clam up? How can wives get their husbands to open up?
That is a challenge, I think, for wives. Typically, women are more verbal; they're more articulate than guys. Guys, speak so many fewer words per day than the average woman. It's basically, in a certain sense, verbal communication is not our forte. And I think that on a certain level, men feel outmatched, outgunned, whatever. And when they try to express themselves, they find themselves either fumbling over their words or being outmatched in some way. And so I think if a wife is wanting to get her husband to communicate, the key will be for her to be willing to listen, going back to our earlier thing. Sometimes I think wives will say, well, he doesn't ever say anything, and it's like, and then she will say something, and he opens his mouth and gets half a sentence out, and just like you said, interrupted and off and running, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe it has something to do with the fact that a guy wants to fix things, and because he can't fix it, he won't say anything?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, guys tend to be task-oriented. They do want to fix things, and sometimes it's just about listening. I've had a variety of leadership positions over the years, and I'm a fixer, and so people would come to me with complaints or various problems, and I'd immediately start working on fixing them, and I'd go back to the person who had the initial complaint and say, hey, listen, I've taken care of this problem. I've done this and this and this, and they're like, what are you talking about? I didn't want you to fix that. I just wanted to gripe about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, well.
And I think it's the same story for a lot of wives. They just want to, rant and talk about it, but they don't want to get, they don't want you to fix it.
Exactly.
They just want you to listen.
They want to be heard. Exactly.
Right. Now, another suggestion you gave was that a husband should practice servant leadership. What does that mean?
Well, I think leadership has gotten a bad rap, in modern times. The liberal mindset is that any kind of authority structure, any kind of leadership equals oppression. And if you look at the leadership style of Christ and use him as your model, he was a leader, but he led by serving. And so when we say servant leadership, we mean that not leading in the sense of do what I say so I can benefit, but let me serve you so that you can benefit. And it revolves around putting others first. It revolves around doing for others and using your position, whether it's at home or in the workplace or wherever it is, not as a self-serving tool, but rather as a tool to serve others. And in the marriage relationship, as a tool to serve your wife.
And that's serving as a role model.
Exactly.
Yeah. Doug, we talked earlier, or specifically you talked earlier about spending alone time. I think you said something about 8 o'clock. You have that alone time, whether it's in the tub or whatever it may be. And I know that's important to you because when you described that, I felt the importance in your description of that. Okay, but I'm going to put you on the hot seat a little bit here. Okay, sure. As a physician, the demands on your time, I know, are great. I worked in the healthcare field for 28 years. I'm not a physician.
Sure.
But I've worked with physicians, so I know the demands that you often face. Not all, but some of them. With a wife and 12 children and the demands on your time as a physician, how on earth are you able to implement this alone time on a regular basis?
Well, obviously we can't, implement it 100% of the time. There's nights that I have to do 24-hour shifts.
Right.
I'll literally leave in the morning and, won't see him till the next day sometime.
Right.
And I know when we were in training, just the hours were ridiculous.
Well, they're brutal, aren't they?
Yeah. Even my first year in practice, I think one week I logged 117 hours at the hospital, out of 168 possible. So any rate, yes. I mean, obviously, there's days that get missed. I think that if you make it a priority to do it whenever you can do it, then those times you can't do it are easily forgiven or, overlooked.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll be taking our last break for tonight, but stay tuned. When we return, Doug Flanders will share his exciting upcoming book.
Saying, God, please take all of me and fill me up with your love. Love, take these words that I'm speaking, love. Take these thoughts that I'm thinking, love. Take me over. Love, fill up all of my space and love. Stand right here in my place. Love, hear this prayer that I'm praying. Love, take me over. Love, take me over.
Starting a nonprofit corporation is serious business. It goes beyond your desire to help people and make needed changes in the world. There are laws and regulations governing how you organize and operate your nonprofit. We can help you get started right. We'll get your nonprofit incorporated and apply for your 501c3 tax-exempt status. Let us provide you service for a change. Call toll-free 877-919-0496, 877-919-0496, or visit consultgeorgenow.com today.
Need to update your do or tighten your fade? Modest Cuts is a full-service hair salon offering barber and beauty services for men, women, and children. This clean, family-oriented salon is located at 2421 Central Avenue in the heart of St. Petersburg's Grand Central District. Modest Cuts Salon is open Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 6, and Saturdays, 7:30 to 3:30. Appointments are encouraged. Walk-ins are welcomed. Call Marla at 727-768-3938. That's 727-768-3938. Modest Cuts Salon. Attention you deserve.
Welcome back to the show. I want to encourage you to get out and support the 4Kids Vision Luncheon on Tuesday, October 22nd from noon to 1 p.m. at Bonefish Grill in St. Petersburg. Register in advance at 4kidswcf.org or call 727-322-7642. For more information and to participate in this week's poll, go to letsgetrealshow.org. And now, back to Maida and Harold with the wrap-up of today's show.
And thank you, George, and welcome back, everyone. We're in the last part of the wrap-up of our show, as George shared with you. And Doug, it's my understanding you've got a book coming out soon. If I understand correctly, it's kind of a medical thriller. We've got about a minute and a half. Could you tell us a little bit about the book?
Sure. My wife and I have always been both big readers, and we were, always disappointed that some of our favorite books would have things that were not, acceptable to read out loud to the kids. And so I got the bright idea of writing, high-tech medical thrillers without the smut and without the language and so forth. And as I was looking for ideas, we had taken the family backpacking across Europe, and we had 9 kids at the time, and I thought, I would be the world's worst spy with all these kids drawing attention and people taking our photographs and stuff. But then I thought, I might be the best spy because no one would suspect me, So we used that as the premise of this family, the Gundersons, and the first book is called The Prodigy Project, and the family's in China, and the dad is doing his spy work, and in the process, the family finds out about it, and they all pitch in, and people have called it, Spy Kids meet the Duggars.
That's cute.
That. But at any rate, it's a lot of fun. We've had a lot of positive reviews and a lot of good feedback, and it's always fun when people come up and said, "Oh, I loved your book," And so that's the Prodigy Project. It's available at Amazon.com. But also, we've got a second book. We don't have a timetable yet, but it's a prequel to that book before the family finds out that their dad's a spy.
Well, that sounds great, Doug.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we thank you so much for being on our show and for all the valuable information you've shared with our listeners. But right now, we are at our end of the show. And join us again next week. Our topic will be Daughters in Danger, Preventing Teen Dating Violence. You won't want to miss that show. And now for the final words of our producer, George.
Thank you, Marta and Harold. What a very informative show today. It is comforting to know that taking care of the small things can make a big difference in our marriages. Many thanks to Doug Flanders for his timely insights and helpful tips. You will find additional information on the resource page of our website, letsgetrealshow.org. And don't forget to support National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We deeply appreciate your prayerful and financial support of this radio program. If you would like to become an advertiser or sponsor, please call 727-851-2064. We hope to hear from you soon, and until then, God bless you, and remember, keep it real.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
WTAN, Clearwater, Tampa Bay. WDCF, Dade City, Tampa Bay. WZHR, Zephyr Hills, Tampa Bay. Listen.